Alaska is a land of extremes, massive glaciers, endless winters, and a rugged beauty that draws thousands of adventurers every year. But beneath the last frontier, marketing lies a darker reality. The Alaska Triangle, a region stretching between Anchorage, Juneau, and Utqiagvik, has seen over 20,000 disappearances since the 1970s. That is twice the national average. In 2026, as investigative content creators and digital nomads push deeper into the bush, reports of glitches, strange magnetic anomalies, and towns that seem to defy social logic are surfacing on forums and private signal groups. Some say it's the isolation. Others believe the land itself is hungry. Here are 10 Alaskan towns that feel off. 10 small Alaskan towns that feel off. Something strange is happening. 1. Portlock, the town that fled in terror. Portlock isn't just a ghost town. It's a crime scene that nature is trying to bury. In the 1940s, this thriving cannery town on the Kenai Peninsula was abandoned overnight. It wasn't because the fish ran out. It was because of the Nantianak. Residents reported a hairy giant, murdering hunters and leaving their bodies in the lagoon with wounds that no bear could produce. By 1950, the postmaster was the last to leave. Even today, local indigenous groups warn that the area is haunted by something that hates human presence. The terror in Portlock was so pervasive that it transcended mere folklore. It became a collective trauma that severed the community's tie to the land. Historical accounts describe men disappearing in the middle of their shifts, only for pieces of their gear to be found high in the inaccessible mountain crags. The Nantianak was described as a creature of immense strength and malevolent intelligence, capable of mimicking human cries to lure victims into the brush. When the villagers finally fled, they left their homes fully furnished, as if escaping a house on fire, leaving behind a silent monument to an ancient, territorial predator that claimed the coastline for itself. 2. Adak, the birthplace of winds and shadows. Located at the tip of the Aleutian Islands, Adak was a massive Cold War naval base. Today, it is a crumbling relic where only a few hundred people remain. Walking through Adak feels like being in a liminal space. You see suburban-style neighborhoods, schools with books still on the desks, and theaters, all completely empty and battered by constant 100 miles per hour winds. Visitors report the feeling of being watched from the thousands of empty windows of the abandoned barracks. The atmosphere in Adak is one of suspended animation, where the infrastructure of a mid-century American city is being slowly reclaimed by the unforgiving Bering Sea. The silence between the wind gusts is heavy, punctuated only by the rhythmic banging of rusted doors against concrete frames. Because the base was designed to house over 6,000 people, the remaining handful of residents occupy a footprint far too large for their numbers, leading to a strange social isolation where neighbors may live miles apart in identical, decaying bunkers. It is a place where the line between occupied and abandoned has blurred into a permanent, gray twilight of Cold War ghosts. 3. Skagway, the echoes of 1898. Skagway is a beautiful tourist stop by day, but when the cruise ships leave, the energy shifts. This was the gateway to the Klondike Gold Rush, a place built on desperation and death. The Red Onion Saloon is famous for its spectral inhabitants, but locals talk more about the static in the air near the Chilkoot Trail. It's as if the sheer volume of human suffering from the 1890s has permanently thinned the veil. The sheer density of the hauntings in Skagway is attributed to the Dead Horse Trail, where thousands of pack animals and their owners perished in the mud and snow. Modern residents often report hearing the phantom sound of heavy boots on wooden boardwalks when no one is there, or the smell of cheap tobacco and unwashed wool wafting through modernized storefronts. The town feels like a theatrical stage where the play never actually ended. The actors simply became invisible. There is a palpable sense of gold fever residue, a lingering, frantic energy that makes visitors feel an inexplicable urgency to keep moving, as if the mountain pass is still demanding its toll. 4. Nome, the fourth kind ground zero. Nome is isolated. You can't drive there. You have to fly or boat in. Nome gained international notoriety for a string of disappearances that some attributed to extraterrestrial activity. While the FBI attributed these to harsh climate and alcohol, the town remains a hub for UFO sightings. There is a persistent local legend about a silver orb that follows the tree line outside of town, appearing just before someone goes missing. The off feeling in Nome is tied to its position as a geographical outpost at the edge of the world, where the electromagnetic field is notoriously unstable. Many locals claim to have missing time experiences, waking up in their vehicles or homes with no memory of the previous several hours. Unlike other towns where the threat feels terrestrial, Nome's dread is focused upward. The vast, treeless tundra surrounding the city offers no cover, making one feel exposed to whatever might be watching from the low-hanging Arctic clouds. It is a community that has learned to live with the unexplained, shielding itself behind a culture of rugged silence and wary eyes. 5. Whittier, the town under one roof. Almost the entire population of Whittier lives in a single 14-story building called Beach Towers. Imagine a town where you never have to go outside. The school, the police station, the grocery store, and the church are all connected by tunnels. This claustrophobic existence creates a unique, hive-mind social structure. Visitors often describe the residents as being too in sync, as if the building itself has a collective consciousness. Living in Beach Towers creates a psychological feedback loop where privacy is a secondary concept. Because everyone knows the exact rhythm of their neighbor's life, the sound of their footsteps, the time they get their mail, the social fabric becomes unnervingly tight. The off vibe comes from the realization that the building acts as a closed biological system. If a stranger enters, the atmosphere changes instantly, as if the structure itself has detected a foreign body. The underground tunnels, used primarily during the brutal winter months, foster a subterranean culture where residents can go weeks without seeing the sun, leading to a shared, dreamlike state of existence that outsiders find deeply unsettling. 6. Utqiagvik, the 66 Days of Night. Formerly known as Barrow, this is the northernmost city in the U.S. Every winter, the sun sets and doesn't rise for over 2 months. During the polar night, the town enters a state of sensory deprivation. Residents report the hum, a low-frequency vibration that seems to come from the permafrost. In 2026, some researchers believe this is due to magnetic anomalies in the Alaska Triangle. But for the people living there, it feels like the town is purring. This purring effect is accompanied by a phenomenon known as Arctic hysteria, where the lack of light causes the brain to hallucinate movement in the shadows of the ice pressure ridges. In the absolute darkness, the spatial boundaries of the town seem to dissolve. The frozen ocean looks identical to the frozen land, creating a disorienting white-on-black void. The community becomes hyper-internalized, with social gatherings taking on a frantic, almost ritualistic quality to ward off the oppressive gloom. To walk the streets during the dark months is to feel the sheer weight of the atmosphere, a physical pressure that suggests you are no longer at the top of the world, but rather at its very edge. 7. Eagle, the silent outpost. Eagle sits right on the Yukon River near the Canadian border. It is a town that prides itself on being off the grid. Eagle has a history of disappearing people who are running from their past. It's a place where no one asks for your real name. The town feels like a waiting room for the wilderness. If you stay too long, you start to feel the urge to walk into the woods and never look back, a phenomenon locals call the pull. The psychological gravity of Eagle is immense. It serves as the final stop for those who wish to be forgotten by modern civilization. This creates a population of shadows, people who are physically present but legally and socially non-existent. The off vibe is rooted in this culture of secrets, where a simple conversation at the local store feels like an interrogation. There is a sense that the wilderness isn't just a backdrop, but a silent partner in the town's governance. The pull is often described as a siren song of the Yukon, a sudden, overwhelming realization that the only way to truly find peace is to merge with the silence of the black spruce forests. 8. McCarthy, the Copper Kingdom's ghost. Located inside the Wrangell St. Elias National Park, McCarthy is surrounded by the massive ruins of the Kodiak copper mine. The mine was once the richest in the world, but it was abandoned so quickly that tools were left mid-swing. The scale of the red wooden buildings against the white glacier is jarring. It feels like a monument to human greed that the mountains are slowly swallowing whole. McCarthy is a town of extreme contrasts, where the jagged, rusted machinery of the early 20th century sits in the middle of pristine, untouched wilderness. The energy here is one of arrested decay. Because the dry mountain air preserves wood and metal so effectively, the mine buildings look as though the workers simply stepped out for a lunch break 100 years ago. This creates a haunting time-slip effect for visitors, who often report hearing the phantom clank of buckets or the shouting of ghost foremen. It is a place where the hubris of industry has been humbled by the slow, grinding power of the Kodiak Glacier, leaving behind a hollowed-out kingdom of rust and echoes. 9. Kodiak, home of the sea beast. Kodiak is known for its massive bears, but the strange things happen in the water. Since the early 1800s, locals have reported a sea monster with a horse-shaped head and blowholes. But the real off feeling comes from the Erskine house, where a fur trapper named McIntyre is said to still roam the halls. The town feels heavy, as if the weight of the surrounding ocean is pressing down on every building. The maritime dread in Kodiak is a byproduct of its brutal history with the Russian fur trade and the devastating 1964 earthquake that sent tsunamis to level the town. The water here isn't seen as a resource, but as a fickle deity that can take everything in an instant. This creates a heavy social atmosphere where the residents seem constantly braced for impact. The sea beast sightings often coincide with massive underwater seismic shifts, leading to local theories that the creature is a herald of the deep Earth's movements. In Kodiak, the land and sea are in a constant, violent dialogue, and the human inhabitants are merely caught in the crossfire of ancient elemental forces. 10. Chicken, the nowhere crossroads. Yes, the town is literally named Chicken because the founders couldn't spell ptarmigan. With a year-round population of about 10 people and no plumbing or central electricity, Chicken is a hub for modern gold prospectors. The air here feels old. It's a place where the 21st century hasn't quite landed, and the silence of the surrounding tundra is so absolute it becomes deafening. The isolation of Chicken is so profound that it alters the perception of time. Without the hum of electricity or the distraction of modern connectivity, the senses become hyper-attuned to the natural world. This often leads to tundra madness, where the vast, unchanging horizon causes a loss of self-identity. The gold prospectors who stay here are a breed apart, driven by a quiet, obsessive focus that borders on the religious. The off vibe comes from the realization that in Chicken, you are completely insignificant. The wind, the gold, and the permafrost were here long before you and will remain long after you are gone, making every human action feel like a fleeting, silent whisper in a cathedral of ice. The survivalist audit. 3 signs a town is triangle tainted. If you find yourself in a remote Alaskan town, apply these checks to see if things are truly off. 1. The static test. Turn on an AM radio. If you hear a rhythmic pulsing instead of white noise static, you are near a magnetic anomaly. This is common in the Alaska Triangle and is often linked to navigation failures, compass spinning, and lost time. These localized geomagnetic disruptions are theorized to be caused by massive underground mineral deposits or tectonic stress, but for the traveler, they manifest as a dizzying vertigo. If your electronics begin to flicker or the radio pulse matches your own heartbeat, the spatial coordinates of the town may be shifting. 2. The animal silence rule. In the Alaskan bush, there should always be noise, the chattering of squirrels, the distant cry of a raven, or the rustle of wind through black spruce. If you enter a town and the woods are completely silent, leave immediately. Nature has an early warning system. Birds and small mammals flee long before a predator, natural or otherwise, makes itself known. This cone of silence often precedes sightings of the Kushtaka or the Nantianak, signaling that the local ecosystem has recognized an apex threat and has collectively held its breath to avoid detection. 3. The crowd check. Observe the locals. If everyone seems to be looking in the same direction, often toward a peak or a patch of empty tundra, or reacting to a high-pitched sound you can't hear, you are witnessing the boreal hypnosis. It's time to head back to the highway. This collective trance is frequently reported in high-latitude settlements during the transition into the polar night. It suggests a shared sensory experience that excludes outsiders, a psychological syncing with the environment that indicates the residents are no longer entirely anchored to the world you know. The weirdness of the North isn't just a byproduct of isolation. It is a physiological response to a landscape that operates on a different frequency. When you step into a triangle town, you are entering a zone where the Earth's crust is thinner and the atmospheric pressure feels physically heavier. Investigations into 2020 SIX's most baffling disappearances often point to these specific off towns, where the geography itself acts as a predator. By maintaining a high level of situational awareness, you can distinguish between the natural awe of the wilderness and the supernatural dread of a location that has thin walls. Modern survival in the frontier requires more than just bear spray and a satellite phone. It requires an intuitive understanding of the vile vortices, areas where magnetic pull is so intense it can disrupt the human inner ear and the prefrontal cortex. If you find yourself in a settlement where the shadows seem to move against the light, or where the hum of the permafrost becomes a physical vibration in your teeth, you are standing at a crossroads of reality. These towns aren't just remote, they are exits from the grid. By understanding the deep-seated legends and magnetic realities of the North, you protect your psyche from the isolation and weirdness of the frontier. Prioritizing this situational awareness is a vital step toward a resilient, high-performing 2026 lifestyle. Reclaiming the truth about the Alaska Triangle ensures you remain a conscious observer rather than another statistic in the wilderness. Choosing to acknowledge the off nature of these settlements allows you to navigate the edge of the map without falling off it, preserving your cognitive integrity in a land that is constantly trying to dissolve it. Furthermore, navigating these glitch zones requires a total rejection of conventional urban logic. In the lower 48, we are conditioned to believe that infrastructure equals safety. In the Alaskan bush, infrastructure is often just a fragile veneer draped over a primordial power that remains entirely indifferent to human presence. When the static begins to vibrate in your skull and the locals begin to speak in the cadence of the wind, you must trust your primal instincts over your GPS coordinates. These towns serve as a stark reminder that there are still places on Earth where the map is not the territory and where the human mind is a guest, not a master. Securing your psychological perimeter in such environments is the ultimate mindset hack for the modern explorer. It requires a willingness to look into the dark Arctic and recognize that the anomalies we call strange are simply the natural laws of a landscape we have yet to fully decode. By anchoring your reality in objective observation and rejecting the boreal hypnosis, you maintain the structural integrity of your own consciousness. In 2026, the greatest threat isn't the cold or the distance. It is the slow erosion of what you believe to be real. Stay grounded, stay alert, and never ignore the silence. Furthermore, navigating these glitch zones requires a total rejection of conventional urban logic. In the lower 48, we are conditioned to believe that infrastructure equals safety. In the Alaskan bush, infrastructure is often just a fragile veneer draped over a primordial power that remains entirely indifferent to human presence. When the static begins to vibrate in your skull and the locals begin to speak in the cadence of the wind, you must trust your primal instincts over your GPS coordinates. These towns serve as a stark reminder that there are still places on Earth where the map is not the territory and where the human mind is a guest, not a master. Securing your psychological perimeter in such environments is the ultimate mindset hack for the modern explorer. It requires a willingness to look into the dark Arctic and recognize that the anomalies we call strange are simply the natural laws of a landscape we have yet to fully decode. By anchoring your reality in objective observation and rejecting the boreal hypnosis, you maintain the structural integrity of your own consciousness. In 2026, the greatest threat isn't the cold or the distance. It is the slow erosion of what you believe to be real. Stay grounded, stay alert, and never ignore the silence. This protective barrier is your most essential piece of gear. In a region where the magnetic north can fluctuate and the sheer scale of the tundra can induce a profound sense of derealization, Your internal compass must be calibrated to the truth of your own senses. Those who disappear in the Alaska Triangle are often those who stop questioning the wrongness of their surroundings, eventually blending into the static and becoming part of the landscape's inscrutable history. By demanding transparency from your environment and refusing to be lulled by the siren song of the silence, you ensure that your journey through the towns of the North is a path toward discovery rather than a descent into the unknown. Reclaiming your awareness is the first step toward conquering the last frontier's deepest shadows.